Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games at Ocean Casino Resort. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Go to the Gallery at Ocean Casino. Go for the win. For more info, visit oceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to play. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be there tomorrow. We are live at Chickies and Pete's today in Egg Harbor Township. Hopefully, it's a little wet and rainy outside there today.
It's gross.
But hopefully you're staying dry and hanging out with us, Mike and Ryan, live on a Sports Bash Thursday. It's Football at 4 with Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com. Matchups he's looking for in the game. Let's check it out. Andrew, what's going on, buddy? How are you, bud?
Mike, how are you, my friend? Good to be with you.
I'm doing all right, yes. We are getting ready for this game Saturday night. Obviously, it's highly anticipated. There's so much here. I want to first get your take on the matchup with the Giants from the last time, not the Week 18 matchup, to the Week 14 matchup, to where we are on Saturday night. And how much do you, Andrew, take from that game Saturday, Week 14, and bring it into this game here? How much have the Giants evolved since that Week 14 game?
Well, they certainly have evolved quite a bit, but from one of the talking points from that game, if you remember, was the dominance against Evan Neal, their right tackle, and Andrew Thomas, their left tackle. Andrew Thomas has been great all year, but those guys were getting work by Hassan Reddick, and Brandon Graham had 3 sacks in that game. You got to remember, from the Giants' standpoint, they were missing Xavier McKinney. They were missing a lot of different players that are now going to be on the field on Saturday night. But I thought the Eagles really provided a lot of pressure, and they bore down on Daniel Jones, and they really altered the Giants' game plan early, and the game got out of hand early. And obviously that was a 48-22 matchup, very lopsided. But I thought the Giants have come a long way from then, and especially at the quarterback position. I thought Daniel Jones has really taken a big step forward. And the coaching staff, I can't say enough about the Giants' coaching staff. They've really done a great job of maximizing the potential of its personnel.
Yeah, and obviously, we just saw them play last week. So what do you take from last week's game from them? Because they did play a Vikings team that plays a similar style of defense that the Eagles do. I think the Eagles have better personnel. But do you watch what they did against the Vikings defense and have some concerns on how they can do that against John Gannon's defense, which is a similar style to Minnesota's?
Well, Daniel Jones carried 17 times, much like Jalen Hurts did against the Chicago Bears. He had just under 80 yards. And he puts defense in a unique bind, as most running quarterbacks do, because you have to account for that. So I think that the Eagles are going to have to play a lot of zone coverage to make sure that they keep an eye on Daniel Jones and don't allow a big play, which is okay because the Giants don't have a plethora of offensive weapons that are going to beat you down the field. Outside of Darius Slayton, who averaged 22 yards a catch last week. So I thought that their approach was really sound against the Vikings. They didn't even need Saquon Barkley to do a lot of damage. He only had, 9 carries, and he had 2 touchdowns, very efficient, about 6 yards a carry, against a Vikings defense that was really porous against the run. Isaiah Hodgins has been a really nice story for them. He really emerged as a second option at wide receiver. He had 8 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown, and he's one of my X factors this week. So a lot of different players have stepped up for them, and I thought it was a really well-rounded effort from the Giants last week against the Vikings.
Andrew, what do you make of Daniel Jones, right? Because everyone's obsessed with this dude now. And I'm like, he had one good game, and all of a sudden we're putting him in the Hall of Fame here. I mean, I'm being a little bit dramatic, but my goodness, should anyone be even mildly fearful of Mr. Jones coming into the link at 8:15?
Well, he's an athletic player, Ryan, but as we know, he's very erratic, and that's been the tale of the tape. And his story throughout his career, I don't know that we can crown him or award him anything, or he hasn't proven it. I mean, he's had spotty performances that have reminded you that this guy was a first round talent, but I haven't seen enough to really for me to ever be threatened against any team facing Daniel Jones. But you have to account for his athleticism and his elusiveness outside the pocket. But outside of that, I mean, he's been somebody that has been he's the quintessential Jekyll and Hyde quarterback. I think he's really just taken advantage of bad defenses, and he's going to have a whole lot of pressure coming his way on Saturday. So we'll see how he's able to handle that. I do foresee a turnover coming. I think Jonathan Gannon's defense is really going to apply a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones and make him beat him with his arm.
Speaking of pressure, not that there's any added pressure going into this game, particularly for Nick Sirianni, is who I want to ask your opinion on. But this is a big game for Nick Sirianni. It's a big game for everyone involved in this Eagles organization, right? Captain Obvious statement. But my point is, Nick Sirianni, Coach of the Year candidate, teams got the bye, had a week off at home. You gotta make a statement here, and this game is everyone, the whole world is expecting you to win. So, I guess the question is, talk about the pressure that is really going to be on Sirianni and his coaching staff Saturday and hopefully moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of pressure on this coaching staff and the Eagles team as a whole, right? I mean, you run through the NFL, you're 14-3, you're collecting all these accolades throughout the season. Your quarterback was in contention for MVP for much of the season. You had the bye week off. You have a favorable matchup. This was the matchup that favored the Eagles the most, playing the Giants, frankly. You dominated this team when it mattered in the first matchup. So anything less than a dominant performance, I would say, it would be a little bit underwhelming and concerning moving forward, knowing that you're going to have the Cowboys or the 49ers on the slate should they win this game. The Eagles had not been playing their best football in the last 2 weeks of the season. Yeah, you can throw out Week 18 against the Giants. They were just trying to get out of there with the win, keep everybody healthy, and it was largely vanilla. But, I mean, the Saints game was a must-win, essentially, and they dropped the ball there, and I thought they regressed. Shane Steichen, in particular, as a play caller, I thought had some glaring blemishes in his performance. But I think there's a lot of pressure on this team. But I do think that they're getting guys healthy at the right time. We'll see what Jalen Hurts is able to do if he's operating at 90% or 100% capacity. We'll find that out shortly. But Lane Johnson's going to give it a go. Avonte Maddox is really the one player that isn't going to be out there, and he alters the defense drastically. But that could be possibly down the line. But I think right now the Eagles are in a really good position. They're well rested, and they have this team's number for throughout the season. So we'll have to see if they're able to come out strong. I mean, the Giants are coming off that big win, and the Eagles, there could be a little bit of a flat start from them. But against a team like this that's sort of surging, I don't think they can afford that. They're going to have to come out strong and strike first, I think.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. Jalen Hurts, 22 touchdowns. Did you know the average touchdown pass he threw was traveling 31 yards in the air? That's a big play guy. So, in other words, they want to throw the ball down the field and make big plays. And I guess that's where the limitations, if there is, of Hurts would come into play. I mean, they're obviously a big play offense. Does this Giants defense set itself up for giving up the big play?
Yeah, I think it does, but I also think that they've gotten healthier in the secondary, so that they may prevent against having an A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith beat them, and you could see a similar approach to what the Vikings did last week, and they had to utilize the middle of the field. T.J. Hockenson, I think, had 10 receptions for 130 yards. The middle of the field was wide open all day, and I think this could be a big Dallas Goedert game because I think the Giants are well aware that the Eagles are an explosive offense and a quick strike and can alter momentum at the drop of a hat. The last thing they want is a back-breaking play from A.J. Brown or anything like that. So I think it could be they're going to see the Eagles really threaten the middle of the field with the tight end and probably and some Devontae Smith as well. He's really been money on those intermediary routes.
Andrew, just to sort of expand on what you just said there, Dallas Goedert could be set up for a potentially big night against this Giants defense. Who is an X factor? Maybe it is Dallas Goedert, right? You can repeat that. That's obviously fine. But who is also set up for a potentially breakout performance here against this Giants defense?
Well, yeah, for me, and this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, in my piece for Inside the Birds that's coming out tomorrow, Dallas Goedert is going to be my offensive X factor for the Eagles, just given what the Vikings were able to do, and I do think that their game plan is going to be sort of timid. I think they're going to want to prevent the big play, kind of like what Jonathan Gannon does, and knowing the Eagles have two explosive weapons on the outside, I think their approach is going to be, let's see if the Eagles can march on a long drive, taking those yards over the middle. I think Miles Sanders can also have a really big game. The Eagles have, obviously, some of it was due to left knee, that he had a brace on his left knee. But I thought that they managed his workload throughout the last part of the season to ensure that he would be fresh for the playoffs. So I think that he would be a player that you want to get that offense rolling, get your running back going. He should be fresh, and he's an explosive player, and he's performed well all season, and the matchup is pretty advantageous. So I think that he's another player to keep an eye on.
Andrew, one of the numbers that we read earlier has to do with Maddox, and he's not going to play. He's already been ruled out. When he's on the field, the Eagles give up 5.5 yards an attempt between the numbers. When he has been off the field, that number goes up to 8.3, which is the same exact number that Minnesota allows all season. That was 30th in the league. Is Maddox being out in this game going to be felt as it is? That going to be an issue?
I think having Maddox for the next game, should it be the Niners or the Cowboys, when they have more offensive weapons, then they can spread your defense out and open field tackling becomes so paramount. That's more of a necessity, in my opinion, than this week when the Giants really have the quarterback who's obviously a threat. They have Saquon Barkley, and they have Isaiah Hodgins, who's he's okay. He's not number 2 on most teams, and Slayton's a fine player as well. But they don't have a lot of players that are going to cause a mismatch down the field or get them in space where tackling where you don't want to let them rack up those yards after the catch. I think it would be more worrisome next week if you don't have Avonte Maddox available. But he's such what he brings to the defense. He's a smart player. He's tough. He's physical. But he can play any position on the back end, which allows Jonathan Gannon to be so much more flexible in his disguises and his play calling. So hopefully he's able to make a return next week because it is a great loss.
Andrew, talk about your expectation or prediction on how the Eagles will come out play calling wise to start this game. This is something Gil and I spoke on earlier in the show. A little bit of an uncertain feel around this team right now based off Jalen Hurts' shoulder. You look at the success Miles Sanders had on the ground against this Giants defense earlier in the year, right? So do they attack it on the ground with Miles Sanders? Do they attack it down the field and try and push it down the field with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown deep, right? Like how would you assume or assess is probably better that they come out identity-wise offensively?
I think they should and they will come out running the football, settle Jalen Hurts and the offense in, and pick up some yards, hopefully some first downs. And I also think you might see some short, whether it be tight end screens or passes over the middle to Dallas Goedert, who's the safety valve, and get Jalen Hurts some easy completions and get him settled into the game. That to me would be the safest plan of attack for the Eagles and the most sound, I think. And then you might see them open it up later, Ryan, depending on how the Giants are playing them. I think that you could be able to combat them. I think Wink Martindale's going to send a heavy blitz approach and trying to flush Jalen Hurts out and provide a lot of pressure on him, maybe force a turnover. But I think that they could take advantage of that over-aggressiveness as the game unfolds.
Talking with Andrew DiCecco, InsideTheBirds.com. One of the interesting kind of storylines in this game, I think, are the coaching staffs. You got Sirianni, Dable. They coached together in Kansas City. They were on the same staff there. I talked to Clay Harbor earlier today, Andrew, and he said, he's played for Andy Reid. He's played for Belichick. Dan Campbell was his tight end coach. He played for Jim Caldwell. He said that Daboll was the best coach, the smartest coach he has ever played for. And you wonder, in a game like this, where the Eagles clearly are the more talented team, how much does coaching and preparation, execution, factor into this game for you?
It means a lot. It really does, because in the playoffs, like I said, everything's magnified, and the margin for error is so small that it could come down to coaching, decision-making, getting your team prepared to play, finding ways to motivate your players, whatever it takes. And Brian Dable really strikes me as a player that's able to do that. Obviously, what he's been able to do with this Giants roster that is largely pedestrian, in my opinion, to get them into the second round of the playoffs. I don't think anybody saw that happening in the beginning of the season. I certainly didn't. And I think that speaks to his coaching, his leadership, but also the coaches he's surrounded himself with. Wink Martindale, Mike Kafka has done a phenomenal job with Daniel Jones. It's been one of the great development stories this year. especially in the latter stages of the season. So I think that Brian Dable has the Giants firing on all cylinders right now. And if I'm the Eagles, that's one thing that might be a little concerning. I think that he's going to have the team ready to go, and he's pressing all the right buttons right now. And as we saw in the 2017 Eagles when Doug Peterson was doing that, certainly not equating the two teams, but coaching does make a big difference and could move the needle in this situation.
Andrew, I just want to step away from this game for a second, and I just want your quick opinion on the rest of the weekend in the NFL. Do you have any prediction or maybe a bold prediction on a potential upset? How do you see the rest of these games playing out in the divisional round?
Well, if you want to call the Bengals over the Bills an upset or a substantial, I kind of like them in that matchup.
Yeah.
I think that what they're going to be able to do, first of all, Joe Burrow is much more safe with the football than Josh Allen, and I do think that Bengals defense is very aggressive, as we all know, and I think that Josh Allen has been prone to turnovers and a little reckless with the football, and I think that ultimately could be the difference in this game. I like the Bengals in that matchup. Looking at the Chiefs-Jaguars, I like the Chiefs in that one. I like the Eagles this week. And I like the 49ers because I thought that they've had a couple of days to prepare over the Cowboys to prepare for this game. I like they just have too many skilled players. They can just spread defenses out and present all kinds of matchup problems. I think that's going to be a little bit much for Dallas right now. So those are my picks.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, more over at InsideBirds.com. And, of course, you guys will have the pregame show Saturday to get you ready for the Eagles and the Giants. And, of course, you can hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. And Eagles, what is it, 7.5? Is that the number?
7.5, depending on where you shop there. But, yeah.
Pretty substantial favorite for a divisional round game. Andrew, appreciate it, man. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, guys.